We're both from the same market town of Ulverston in Cumbria, and you contacted me because you were concerned about the Citizens Advice Bureau. Could you tell me a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Roger Lindsay. As you said, I live in the small town of market town of Ulverston in Cumbria. I came here to live when I retired in 2002, and looking round for something useful, I hit upon the Citizens Advice Bureau, which is an organisation I'd always had respect for, and eventually underwent the training procedure, and I've worked there for 16 hours a week for nearly 6 years, until September when I resigned.
That's quite a long time, isn't it?
It's quite a lot of hours, yeah, I've a fair bit of
So,
experience.
so why are you wanting to make this video?
Because I knew, of course, that like other citizens bureaus, we'd had trouble raising sufficient funds to keep the bureau in good health, but pretty much out of the blue, in early October, the trustees announced that they were going to, instead of applying for funding for the bureau that I've worked in for 5 years, they were instead going to apply for funding to support a call centre in Windermere, which is quite some way away, and the inevitable consequence is that the local Citizens Advice Bureau in Ulverston would close down.
Now that's just a month away now. We're now
That's right.
just beginning in November.
Yes.
You say it's going to close down. When is this likely to happen?
Well, there are no funding arrangements in place to provide income after March 2013.
Right. And the what you're saying is that if anybody needs help from Ulverston, they will have to use the telephone, or possibly do it online. It's another possibility, but it would be basically a call centre
Yes.
without the ability of coming in and talking to somebody face to face.
Well, part of the plan is that there will be what's called an outreach facility. I scathingly talk about it as the Flying Doctor Advice Service. I mean, the idea is that if there is sufficient need, then an advisor will be parachuted in from Windermere and will arrange a session in a room in a local health centre or the public library, and give some face-to-face contact. But obviously the amount of face-to-face contact which will be possible under those circumstances will be a small proportion of what the citizens of Ulverston at the moment are getting, and what many of them actually need.
So what we've got at the moment is a place they can go to every day of the week.
Not every day of
Right.
the week, no. There's usually an advice session on Tuesday mornings, Friday mornings, and Thursday from 10 till 3.
Right. So that's 3 days in the week.
Yes.
And how short a notice that can they see somebody?
They can walk in off the street and see someone immediately if there's an advisor free. We rarely keep people waiting for longer than 10 minutes.
Right. So when you're dealing with people who could be in quite an emotional state, the idea of having to wait to get somebody parachuting in, as you expressed it, could be a delay, and they'd be in that process of worrying and not knowing how to cope.
I think that would inevitably happen. I think there's a fair proportion of clients who will find it difficult to cope with making telephone arrangements to see an advisor at some remote point in the future. There'll be another proportion of clients in trouble who simply won't be able to wait until the next appointment is available. It's effectively going to act as a filter, which means that some very needy people will be discouraged from using the service or find it impossible.
What are the kind of problems that you're faced when people need help? What do they need more than factual information?
Well, there are really two different aspects to the service provided by the Citizens Advice Bureau. The first is to try and ensure that no citizen loses out in getting their rights within society because of a lack of information or knowledge.
Yeah.
And the second is to act on their behalf when they, for whatever reason, are not capable of taking the steps that they need to in order to assert their rights. So that, for example, many people don't feel comfortable writing letters to energy companies or mobile phone companies or the National Health Service or the local authority, even when they have a good case and a legitimate complaint. They find it difficult to articulate it. And the CAB will do that for them. And it's cases in which there's a lot of correspondence involved, which is often true, for example, for people with multiple debts or people whose benefit has been stopped, often quite illegitimately, and they have to go through an appeal process. It's that sort of case where a face-to-face service which can monitor the situation and take repeated action, perhaps over several weeks or months. That's where the face-to-face system really is necessary.
Right. Well, I've got a further question to ask you, but shall we just stop there?
Okay.